Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the culinary scene here at Roth Living in Denver, Colorado. I am Executive Chef Ben Davis. I'm just finishing up one last preparation in the Wolf Convection Steam Oven, which is what today's class is all about. Just learning as much as you can learn about what makes this amazing little appliance such a workhorse in your kitchen. I think you're going to find that after today, you're going to try to ask yourself, well, how did I live all these years without it? So what I've just finished up is roasting a few green beans with some onions, some green beans we picked up at the farmer's market the other day. We're just going to toss them with sort of a light chili vinaigrette to put out for our display today. So unfortunately, you can't all be here to enjoy it, but hopefully after today, you'll have the tools and the knowledge to say, boy, I've got to have one of those because I want to do food similar, maybe not exactly like he did today. So that's what today is all about. So let's just a couple of housekeeping points as we get this going. This is a live streamed event, as you probably all know. So it's just like one of those Zoom calls that you did, during the pandemic and all of those things. So ask your questions in real time. You don't need to wait to put in a comment at the end. Just ask the questions, send them through. Lynn is behind the computer. She's working behind the scenes. She's going to relay those questions to me in real time so we can get your answers to you right away. So if you have a question about some of the functions of this oven or some of the little installation features or design features that can be modified, please ask them now. We want to get those questions answered for you. Remember also that the link that you use to come to today's event will remain good throughout time. So if you have to go back and you want to show it to a friend or your spouse or whomever you might want to share some of this information with, please just click on the same link that you used for today, take you right back to the video, and you can watch it again, or you can snip it or just watch the good parts or whatever you want to watch, but you can see that all again on this video. So we're just going to put a little bit of goat cheese because, well, quite frankly, I love goat cheese, and so we're putting that on there. So what is a convection steam oven, and why is a convection steam oven such an amazing tool to have in your kitchen? Well, really, it's because it can do something that no other conventional oven can do. It can add the power and capabilities of steam to your cooking process simultaneously while using hot, dry air in a convection mode. So let's just put our green beans out here in the front, so you can have a look at those while we're talking about the oven. So it uses both forms of heat simultaneously. How does it do that? Why is that important? Well, let's answer those questions for you. How does it do it? Well, it obviously makes its own steam. Right now, the Wolf convection steam oven is a non-plumbed item. You don't have to put in a water line. It's all self-contained. So the water is generated independently. It creates the steam, it injects it at whatever rate it determines is necessary for that particular cooking mode. So it adds steam. Why is steam beneficial? Well, moisture is obviously the big overarching phenomenon that takes place with steam, right? You're adding moisture. Obviously, that's a great thing in many cases. If you want to steam your bagels before you bake them to give them that traditional sort of New York style bagel crust, you do that using steam. When you want to cook your green beans, whether you're roasting them or you're just steaming them, obviously it can create its own steam so that it can do those really nice low-fat preparations, all self-contained. The steam is right there, generated instantaneously when it starts. So the benefits of steam, not only the moisture, but are the way that it speeds up the cooking process. The best example of that would be, if I'm standing here and I have a traditional oven and it's very hot, I might be doing some baking, some roasting, it's very, very hot, it's 400 degrees, maybe a little hotter, and all I have to do is cover my hand. I can easily open that oven door, reach into the oven, remove what I need to take out. No problem, right? But if at the same time I have a pot of boiling water on the stove or my tea kettle is at the boil, I'm going to avoid putting my arm into that stream of hot water vapor because I know that will scald my skin. Well, my oven was 400 degrees or hotter. The water in that tea kettle cannot exceed 212 degrees. So the steam can never be warmer or hotter than 212. Well, 212 does the damage, 400 does not. That just shows you how efficient water vapor is at taking heat energy and moving it from point A to point B. So when you use that in your cooking, now you're cooking faster, you're cooking more efficiently, you're getting things done when you need them a little bit more rapidly, right? And you're adding that moisture, so it's keeping things moist. It's not just drying things out. That's what a convection steam oven does. Other ovens can't do that. They can't produce their own steam and meter it out over time in order to achieve the results that you want. So that's really the biggest benefit of steam. Now, how we generate the steam in a Wolf convection steam oven, as I said before, it is in a reservoir. We're not plumbing this item. So there's no water line in, there's no drain line out. It's all self-contained, so very easy to install into your kitchen, right? You can put it over top of a traditional convection oven, or in this case, we have it mounted over the Wolf Speed oven, right, to give us a nice smaller profile on the wall. But this is the exact profile of the convection steam oven, right? The cavity itself is only 24 inches wide, so it's the same width as a traditional microwave, wall microwave oven. Not huge, but remarkably enough, this cavity is large enough to support a 20-pound turkey, a full-sized prime rib, 2 or 3 beef tenderloins roasting simultaneously. You can put a very large Dutch oven. Obviously, I was able to put large baking vessels of my own into the oven. So you can do a lot more in this oven than you think you can with a small cavity, right? So where does the water come from? Well, the water comes from right here, right? Here's our reservoir that holds the water to generate the steam for the oven, right? Now, you only need to use tap water. There is no required demineralized, deionized, distilled water. You don't want to use water like that. You just want to use water from the tap so that your oven will function properly. So, how long can I steam when the water reservoir is filled? About 2.5 hours of continuous steaming is what you're going to be able to achieve when you fill the reservoir. 2.5 hours is a long time to steam, right? But what happens if it runs out of water in the middle of the steaming process? Not a problem. What the oven will do is it will sense that there is no water left in the reservoir. It will pause. It will eject the drawer from the oven face. It'll give you an audible and visual cue to tell you you need to refill the reservoir. Provided that I don't open the door during that time, I don't lose any humidity from my oven cavity, nor do I lose any heat, right? So my food is continuing to cook. The timer has been paused for just a brief, and then it will pick up after you have refilled the reservoir, and the oven will restart automatically. Unlike a microwave, you don't have to hit start again. It just starts going again, all right? So that is how the water is functioning, right? So it can just be a steamer. Just use it as a steamer for your vegetables, for your fresh seafood, other things like that when you want to do a very delicate process, right? That steam is generated instantaneously. There's no waiting for the water to boil as you would on the stove or in a countertop steamer. No, the water starts and the steam starts the minute you press start. So now you're right off the bat, you're saving time. You never need to preheat when you are steaming, right? So that's a great feature because it's going to save you time in the kitchen when you get home after a long day and you need to prepare something. Now you're not waiting for your oven to preheat. In fact, preheating this oven is virtually none of the time. I mean, there's probably only 5 to 10% of the time you're going to need to preheat the oven in order to accomplish what you need. Most of those times are going to be involving a convection mode, when you are just baking in a dry oven cavity where there is no steam present whatsoever. So for cookies, maybe it's for biscuits, maybe it's these bagels when we finished baking them. We want a dry environment. The oven also has the ability to just be a second convection oven for you. Right? So if you're thinking and you're planning for your kitchen, oh, maybe I need the double wall oven setup. Ask yourself how many times you need the full capacities of both large sized ovens. My guess is that for most of you, that's going to be a very rare occurrence unless you're running some kind of cottage industry out of your kitchen and you're baking a lot of cookies or something like that. But in the idea of having the steam oven as your secondary convection oven, you can still get away with a couple trays of cookies, a couple tray of biscuits at the same time without having to wait as long to preheat the oven when you're using the convection steam oven. So it has that convection feature as well. So those are your baseline modes: pure steam, pure convection. independent of one another. They can be used in a myriad of ways to do a number of different things in your kitchen more efficiently and more quickly because of how fast the oven heats up and how quickly it's going to be cooking your food. But when you get into the other modes, the convection steam mode, convection humid mode, and the reheat mode and the sous vide mode in this oven, now you're talking about using the two forms of heat, steam and convection air, together in order to create that incredible magic that happens when you inject steam when you're essentially frying chicken, right, in the oven. You can use the oven to do all of these things. So convection steam is that mode that uses steam throughout the cooking process, but also will allow you to take the oven all the way up to 440 degrees. So you can do so many different things. You want to slow roast something like a pot roast, maybe you're doing some ribs and you want to keep them nice and moist. Great, just use the convection steam mode in a lower temperature profile. You get that nice moisture from the steam, doesn't evaporate as quickly, slowly moisturizes and tenderizes those tougher cooked pieces of meat so they cook faster because, again, of the steam and that environment, and they cook with more moisture. So you have a really nice way to accelerate things that normally take a long time. Great way to make a cheesecake, great way to make your flans, your custards, all of those things using a lower temperature steaming environment, right, to accomplish those goals. You can go all the way up to that 440 degrees, and so if you want to make something brown and crispy, roasting potatoes, maybe you're going to do a couple of chicken cutlets to make a chicken parmesan. You can brown them in the oven with the crust on it using steam. I know none of you think steam is what you'd use to brown, right? None of us think, hey, let's boil a steak because we love the outside of the way the steak is after we boil it, right? Water is not usually conducive to a beautiful crust, to a beautiful exterior. But in the convection steam oven, because we're using steam as part of the cooking, but we're also using the convection heat, we can still achieve those goals using both in less time than it would take to do in a traditional oven or maybe a different process where you're actually browning on the stove in a little bit of hot oil and then moving to the oven to finish the cooking. You can do the whole thing together in the convection steam oven. Convection humid, what is that funny? It's a funny sounding thing. Convection humid doesn't make any sense. Why would I want a humid environment? It doesn't sound like it's one or the other. It kind of sounds like a tweener. What does it do? Well, convection humid does something very different than convection steam in the sense that the oven doesn't make its own steam when using that mode. But what it does do is that's kind of hard to say. It doesn't allow the moisture that was in the food that is being prepared to leave the oven cavity. So it keeps the humidity in the oven, right, that is being generated by the food that's being prepared. Much like this cobbler, which was very moist when it went into the oven with all the beautiful fresh Palisade peaches, right, and the blackberries and all of those things. Those are pretty high moisture content. There's obviously some sugar in there. Sugar has got a lot of moisture in it as well. So when I use convection humid to bake off that cobbler, the moisture from my peaches and from my blackberries and all that is retained in the oven cavity, so I'm less likely to dry out my items, right? So convection humid gives you just one more way that you can enhance the cooking that you're doing of products that you're already making. Try your banana bread in convection humid and see how much more moist it is, yet it is still fully baked and set. That's what convection humid helps you do because it keeps that moisture in so that you can get great results all the time. Now, many of you will look at this and say, okay, looks like a microwave, right? What can it do that my microwave can't? And what can my microwave do that the steam oven can't? Okay? Well, what it can do and where it completely excels beyond the microwave is the reheating technique, right? When you want to reheat your food, whether it's 4 plates simultaneously or it's a bowl of macaroni and cheese you want to reheat, right? This oven reheats using steam in the beginning to refresh and rejuvenate your food. It's not just there to suck the moisture out by nuking it in the inside. No, it's adding moisture and then it's raising the temperature slowly to around 250 degrees Because you guys all know you don't want something in your mouth that's, well, you probably don't even want something in your mouth that's 250 degrees, but you certainly don't want something in your mouth that's 350 degrees. I mean, it's going to burn every part of the inside of your mouth. So what it does is steam and then a gentle reheating cycle so that your food reheats evenly and completely. And because of the design of the oven and because it comes with these two sets of wire racks that come with your oven, I can now place 4 plates in the oven simultaneously, reheat them simultaneously. So unlike a microwave, I'm not standing here and doing 1 plate, taking it out. Okay, here you go, Billy. Okay, 2nd plate. Here you go, Susie. You're waiting and everybody's eating at different times. No, you're reheating everything at the same time in this oven. So reheat mode, microwave can't even hold a candle to this, right? And it's one of the ways that this oven can actually replace your microwave, because there are really only 2 things that a microwave can do that this oven can't do. This oven cannot reheat your coffee. So if you are one of those who really love your coffee so hot that you can literally like poach an egg on top of it or something like that, this oven can't do that. It's also going to heat, it's going to dilute your coffee, and it's going to make the mug ridiculously hot. So you can't reheat your coffee. Need a microwave for that. The other thing it can't do, it can't pop your popcorn, right? You can't put your microwave popcorn in here and expect it to pop. Not going to happen. So if those are the 2 things on the list that a microwave can do that this can't, then I dare say that this is maybe a better choice for many of you than a microwave is going to be, because this is a culinary tool, it's a cooking tool, it's the way that you can expand your repertoire in the kitchen so that you can do more things, right? So this is great in that sense, and that reheating mode is just one way that it excels on an everyday basis. You may not cook in it today, but boy, you're reheating something in there, and you're going to find out that it's just beautiful and moist and hot and all of those things. You're going to be super happy with that. It also has a sous vide mode for anybody who's interested in that under a vacuum style of cooking, where you're putting something in a bag to sous vide it and cook it slowly at a precise temperature. Obviously, being able to use steam in the oven, we can mimic the idea of sous vide, which is cooking in a bag in a water bath. We use the steam to replicate the water, and so we can then control the temperature exactly so that we get precise degrees of doneness on the insides of meat, seafood, poultry, anything like that, while not extracting the moisture from those items. So it comes out beautifully cooked, very moist, precisely cooked, and then you can carry on from there, whether you're doing it on your grill, on your griddle, wherever you might want to do some reverse searing, you can do that using the sous vide mode in this, right? So those are your basic modes. Those are just ways you can cook in it. But remember, too, that in almost all Wolf ovens, right, there is what we call the Gourmet feature. And the Gourmet feature on the Wolf Convection steam oven is the most extensive of any of those Gourmet features. What is a Gourmet feature? Well, let's say you don't know how to cook something, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm not really sure how I want to cook this halibut today. Well, maybe my oven knows a way to cook it, and that's what the Gourmet feature is. It has processes built in that will literally lead you through step by step by step, so that you can just follow along and cook your halibut, cook your roasting a chicken. You maybe want to do a prime rib. You want to do all those things. They're all embedded in the Gourmet feature, and you just touch that, find what you want to cook, and it'll give you on-screen instructions and help you cook it perfectly every single time. Now, in this oven, Gourmet feature, there's over 150 Gourmet features in there. My guess is that in your lifetime, you'd have to work pretty hard in order to get them all used up at some point. But they range all the way from any of those roasting large pieces of meat all the way down to Gourmet features that include, heating up your towels, right, for doing a nice wet, moist towel if you're serving ribs or you're having a crab boil or something along those lines. You can do all that in the Gourmet feature, and it just walks you through step by step. So very, very user-friendly in that respect. It gives you so many choices that you can make yourself available to, so you can learn, in a sense, how your oven is thinking, right, in all of those things, right? So Gourmet feature right there. You can program favorites in here so that if you have a recipe that you've developed, right, and you're worried that you might forget how you prepared it the first time in your convection steam oven, no problem. You can save it as one of your favorite recipes. So then every time you want to prepare that recipe, you just touch that button and it will follow. It will just take you right down and you'll do it exactly the same way that you did the first time. All of these ovens come with an internal temperature probe, right? So that you can monitor the internal temperature of whatever it is you're cooking so that you can get that exact internal and perfectly done piece of meat when you use your temperature probe. So, and you don't just use it for roasting meats, you can use it for reheating something, right? If you want to make sure that your lasagna is being reheated to a proper temperature, you can insert your probe into it to make sure that it's nice and hot inside, just to kind of double check, make sure that your oven's doing a good job. You can make sure that it does that. So use your probe for things other than just roasting a chicken or something along those lines when you're just a little worried about making sure that it's fully cooked and not over or undercooked. Right? So all of that, very, very easy to use here. Lots of settings in there that you can customize for yourself. And the other thing that's really amazing about the convection steam oven is that it doesn't have a self-cleaning cycle because it doesn't need one. Because of the steam, the oven will clean itself as you use steam more often. It is also the only oven that we manufacture that you can remove the door on, right? So when you need to clean it, you can literally just set these two hinges up in such a way that you can raise the door and then lift it completely off the front of the oven. So now once it's off, it's very easy to clean the back wall of the oven, right? And you can see it's a little bit dirty from doing a little bit of cooking in it this week. So how would I clean this? I would simply run a fresh steam cycle for maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Once that clean steam had washed down all the walls, can remove the door, use a very mild abrasive cleanser like a Bon Ami or the Barkeeper's Friend, and a clean towel or a soft-sided scrubbing utensil, and then just scrub it out, wipe it out, and voila, it's done. I'm not spending 4 hours of my life watching the oven heat itself to 750 degrees so it can get clean. No, I can just literally do it in just a few minutes by using steam and a little bit of elbow grease, especially because the door will come off. It makes it very, very easy to use. So again, comes in trim styles to match any Wolf trim style that you might have. So if you have an E-series oven that you want to set it above, we can trim the oven so that it matches your E-series. Whether it's an M-series oven, same rules apply. Different handle types, different glass widths, all of those things to trim it out so it looks literally like it was built in conjunction with the oven that sits below it. We always recommend when you install one of these convection steam ovens that you try to make it so that you can put it at roughly shoulder height. That really will help when you install this in your kitchen, because now when you open the oven door and there is a fair amount of steam in the oven cavity, when it releases, it doesn't release into your face, but just up in front of your cabinetry or in something above it. Not to worry if you're having nice cabinets installed above your convection steam oven. No damage is going to take place to those cabinetries because of this brief amount of steam that is released from the oven when it is open. So you don't have to worry about that. But for your design, it's really a good idea to put it at a slightly higher, at least counter height or higher, just so that you don't have to can take a sort of that face full of steam. And I will tell you right now, it's also much easier to clean this oven when I don't have to get down on my knees to reach the top of the oven. By being able to just reach into the oven to clean it makes it much more easy to maintain. So that is a good piece of advice when you're designing your kitchen. If you are interested in a convection steam oven, try to make sure that you can set aside some space that's slightly higher than under a counter. That would not be the best place to put it. Okay, I just lost my train of thought, I'm very sorry to say. Anyway, right now we're looking at, just again, this is trimmed to look 30 inches. Again, it can be as narrow as 24. So again, depending on your design, you can insert it in whatever opening that you would choose to, right? So you can really do a lot with that in that sense. We don't have any questions coming through that need answering? Okay, well, you guys I'm obviously doing a good job, or you're just still on your first cup of coffee. Anyway, so again, Lots of great features embedded in it. Remember as well that in your region of the Roth living territory, so that entire upper Midwest, we do have 5 showrooms throughout the upper Midwest. If you are in proximity to any one of them, I would certainly invite you to make sure that once you have decided to purchase a convection steam oven, or slightly after you purchase a convection steam oven, if you can make your way to one of our showrooms, you should enroll in one of our convection steam oven classes so that you can learn all the ins and outs of using this appliance. It is the only appliance that we offer a singular class covering, right? No, we don't interject any other appliances into the convection steam oven class. We make sure that you learn everything you need to learn about this in those different showrooms around the country. If you cannot make it, if you're living very remotely but you still like a convection steam oven, we do offer a virtual class which will help train you on the use and care of your oven. I'm not going to say that the learning curve on this appliance is steep and difficult, but there are a few nuanced things that it would be good to learn about from one of our chefs. So I think I would make sure that if you do invest in one of these appliances, try to make sure you get a hold of either a live or a virtual mastering of the CSO class, because it will really help you in the long run for using this appliance. I mean, you may just use it to reheat your leftovers, and in that case, you're still going to win, but at the same time, there's so much more that it can do, whether you're baking bread or baking these bagels, you're making desserts, you're roasting a chicken thighs to do like an oven fried chicken, you can do vegetables, seafood, so many things that you can do. It's just hard to fathom something this small being able to do so many processes at the same time. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything. Unless there's a lot of questions, we are always available to you here at Roth Living, so you can always reach out to us directly. If you reach out to us through the comments on this video and on the YouTube channel, that's fine. We will post an answer for you. So if you do have a very specific question about it, we are very, very happy to answer those questions for you. And if you can and you are in the proximity of one of our showrooms, it is always a good idea to make time to come in and spend a couple of hours perhaps with one of our showroom consultants, so you can just see all of the different options that you'll have as you're making up your mind about what's going into your new kitchen, your remodel, your replacement, whatever it might be. Spending that time, you're really going to find it is time well spent. Whether it puts you in the Sub-Zero and Wolf and Cove camp or not. But that's what we're here for. We're here to give you as much information and education as we possibly can about what these appliances can do and the options that you have. So we want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it. So if you can make it to a showroom, great, do so. If not, you can always come back to this channel at the Culinary Scene at Roth Living. We have lots of tutorial videos on our YouTube site, which will give you even more insight into what you can do with this remarkable appliance. So I really appreciate everyone stepping out this morning and joining us, and I hope that if you have any more questions, you're able to reach out and get those questions answered by us. And we look